Hola chicos y chicas, soy RKB. Os espero otro lado te quiero avoid y básicamente your garbage para aumentar mi vida. Hola chicos y chicas, my name is RKB or spelled the other way to avoid, and basically I make videos to document my life. Welcome to La Videos RKB. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut the intro real short, and today I am doing a video about how to take small trips, talking about budgeting, talking about saving and spending, guys. So I'm no big travel connoisseur. I'm no big travel agent, or I'm not very knowledgeable, but based on my own experience with traveling, a lot of people do ask me, how do you afford to take small trips? And when I say small trips, I take a trip maybe about every 3-4 months if I can, and the trips are a bit smaller in length. Like, they're not like 3 weeks or 2 weeks or anything like that. They are like 4-day trips here and there, a weekend type of trip, or I think the most I did was maybe like 5 days. And so in this video, I kind of just typed up a couple of things I want to talk about in this video. This type of video is good for people like me that work a lot and are in school, and sometimes you just want to get away. But sometimes you either have an excuse to get away, like like me, I just went away for my sister's graduation, but I made it a trip. Usually when I'm going somewhere, I always try to make it to if there's like an event actually going on. So let me go ahead and just jump right into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is budgeting. So a couple questions I just put, like, when you're budgeting, what are your daily, weekly, and monthly expenses? Now, based on how long the trip is, that's how I would do your budgeting. So if you are doing a, like, let's say you're doing well, I don't never take 1 day trips, but if you were doing a 1 day trip, then you would look at everything that you spend in the day. Like, okay, how much gas do you spend in the day to and from work if you're working that day? If you're not working, how much gas are you spending shopping around? How much are you spending if you get your coffee every day in the morning? How much are you spending, on things like that daily? That's for like a 1 day trip, which I never really take. I always take a trip that's like 3 days or longer. So now we're talking about weekly. So weekly is something that's more doable for me, because I take like a 5 day. The least I'll take is like a 2 day, 3 day trip. But the longest, because it'll be like 2 nights and three. I mean, 2 days and 3 nights, or I mean, oh my goodness, 3 days and 2 nights or something like that. So more or less, I stick where the weekly and monthly expenses. So with weekly, you can do Sunday to Saturday and see how much do you spend in a week. So that's going to and back from work, or if you work from home, how much time are you dedicating to your online work or whatever you may do on call or whatever. Um, if you do have to drive to work, then how much are you spending in gas? If you're buying takeout, to and from work, or just for dinner, how much are you spending with that? I'm talking about some things like, that I kind of do. Um, or like, if you need something all of a sudden, or you buy this every 2 weeks, or you buy this weekly, things like that. Monthly is talking about longer trips, which I have not taken yet, but I will be taking a longer trip in December. I'll be taking a trip for about 2 weeks. But that's still weekly. But monthly it's all the same concept. It's just longer lengths of time that you have to accommodate for when you are thinking about going on a trip. The next thing that I did want to go ahead and talk about is, I pulled this up on my computer, and sorry, but I have a lot of tabs open. So I have PNC Bank. I don't mind you guys knowing what bank I have. This is not my personal. This is actually through the App Store. I just wanted to get some pictures because I think these pictures were really nice, and it shows um, what I just love about PNC. So PNC, I've had PNC for a while now. This note is not sponsored by PNC, but what I'm trying to get to is that they have, like most banks, have like a budgeting portion of the app, and or even when you go on the website. So here it's just showing you guys like how a virtual wallet would look like. And one thing I want to pay close attention to is the savings engine here. And the savings engine allows you to put money away for like your reserve, or your savings. The reserve, I think you put money in there and it accumulates. And then I think the savings is just a normal savings, whichever one of them accumulates and one of them doesn't. So you can actually make where you want to request certain transfers for when you get paid. You could, I mean, it's so amazing. I just found out about this like a month ago, and it literally saved my life with budgeting and things like where like when you get paid, they'll put $20 here and there, and like I have $20 going here and $20 going there, and then it then in this other one, the spending, it shows you all your expenses. So I literally put in how much I spend on my phone bill, how much I spend for like Ubering around, because you guys know I don't drive at the moment, how much I'm allowed to have for buying food and takeout and groceries, and it budgets it very well. And this is in this little phone part where it shows you like your breakdown. It'll tell you how much you go over each month, how less you have to roll over to the next. It's an amazing app. um I mean, well, people say they hate PNC Bank and stuff like that, but I love PNC Bank, but I just want to show those screenshots because this gets you into an insight of how the app looks and things like that. And what I'm talking about, how you can budget through your app if you're busy like me. Sometimes physical budgeting is not really that easy, but you can literally plug in your numbers in your app, and they'll tell you how much you can spend and how much you can put away for a certain amount of that you need for a trip or for like a car or an apartment or things like that. Another thing about budgeting is I have my own budgeting sheet. I've always budgeted even before the app. So actually you got to see it directly into some of my bills, which I don't mind. So like I know like for my T-Mobile bill, like I pay like no more than $100, and I put the type, I put the amount, I put the bill, I put when it's going to take out, and I put it if it's an automatic withdrawal or something I have to pay physically, because that's an important thing with budgeting as well. So like I know my T-Mobile bill is $100, it's T-Mobile, and I know that on the 13th of each month they will automatically withdraw from my account. I set it up to where this is actually my pay date, so it works out perfectly, and the money, that bill is already taken out. Now something like my SIU Carbondale bill, my my what would you call it? It's not a debt because I'm still paying. I guess it's a debt. I don't have a set amount to pay my schooling, so the max I would pay them is $50. But if sometimes I pay them $10 or $20 here and there, I can, as long as I pay it before the last day of each month, I know I'm good. So those are things you have to kind of look out for, either your automatics or your things that you have to physically do. Another thing is like my other school payment, I have to physically send them a check or physically transfer the money or things like that. Like my life insurance comes out automatically, my stuff for my printer comes out automatically. Also, like just saying this is my only yearly expense, which is my Google Drive storage, and that comes out the 4th of each year. So that was just like talking about my personal bills. So as you can see, let me pull that back up. Not to brag, but my bills are not very high in cost. It only cost me about $214.96 max. That's not including things like my Ubering and things like that. So like what I would actually do on here is because I don't really put like my Uber cost, because my Uber can change from time to time, like depending on how much I work, that's how much Uber I use. So but getting out of my budgeting, let's go back to general budgeting. So like we were talking about, those are your expenses. That's how to track your expenses. You could even go get like an Excel sheet and plug in your numbers and do all that. But I really like Word because you can kind of make it your own. Next step in budgeting is talking about what can be cut out, reduced, or better tracked. So one thing I did not realize that I was spending quite a bit for was I kept seeing like a lot of little shopping purchases on my app, and I kept wondering like where are these little purchases, they do add up. So I was wondering, that's from when I buy things from Wish, that's from when I buy little knickknacks from Walmart and little things that really you don't need but you would like to have type of things. And honestly, like I make a grocery, I make a not a grocery list, I make a shopping list. I make my grocery list and I make my shopping list. So my grocery list only has groceries, and my other list has like other little knickknack things that I need to buy. Like one thing I want to buy, let's say like I want to send my boyfriend something. So I mean he wants these teeth whitening things. So I put that on my want list instead of my grocery list or my needs list. And so you can kind of see where you need to cut out things. Or like me, I never was a big takeout person. So most of I allow basically since my income is about to increase, not trying to brag or anything, but since my income is about to increase, I'm allowing myself to have takeout twice a week or twice every 2 weeks or so. So one for the first week and one for the other. Before then, it was once every 2 weeks, and I had to buy groceries to make up for not having takeout. So I do allow myself now to have about a takeout once a week, and the rest of my money as far as for groceries goes to buying foods to prepare. I'm getting really deep with this budgeting, but it's all going towards, we're getting to the trip eventually. So yes, that's just things that I realized about myself that I need to kind of realize. And even though you make more money, doesn't mean you have to spend more money. And that was the problem. That's why I did quit my other full-time job, was because I was realizing that I kept accumulating debt, and kept accumulating things that I was having to pay off. But it was like, because I had the money to purchase those things and to pay off those things, I was getting more of those things. And it's like you're digging yourself constantly in a hole. So, not saying that I would never work full time again, but at this moment in my life, at that moment I was in, I had never worked full time before. So it was like, ooh, this money is really nice. Let me just keep buying things. And I'm glad I'm not in that situation. I have a bunch of part time jobs now, which is a lot easier for me because I can kind of, pick where I want to go and X, Y, X, Y. So we're getting really deep in this budget. How do you guys like this setup? Like, I'm talking to you guys on a little screen record. You guys getting to see the screen. You're not really getting to see me because sometimes I'll be looking rough. I'll be looking real rough. Okay, so the next thing is the amount of money I make in the time frame, so depending on daily, weekly, monthly, etc., enough to not only sustain your expenses now, but to accommodate your trip. And that is probably the most difficult part of my budgeting for a trip, is to see when is it logical for me to take this trip. And we're gonna get to like it at the bottom again, but what I'm talking about specifically here is like not talking about if you could take time off and thing like that, but in this point I'm talking about um where you are in your life as far as what type of money you make and how much you do make and how much your bills are. Are you able to can you literally afford to take a trip? Like, can you afford to take a trip and take your time off of work? That's like the thing. Like, when I say time off work, I mean, like, can you afford not to work for those XYZ days? And that's how you accommodate either how long your trip is going to be, or how long, I mean, like, if, like, let's say your family's doing something for 2 weeks, but you can't really afford to be out of work for 2 weeks, or to not, make any money in 2 weeks. Then you have to determine, based on your expenses, or to get you through the month or week or whatever, can you, out of them 2 weeks, can you at least go for 4 days? Can you go for at least a week? You have to determine that, and that's all based on your knowing what your budget is and your spending and your bills are in that month, week, day, or year, depending on how long you travel for. So that goes into the next point, which is talking about, are you able to take the time off? So I work in the healthcare professional type field. I work in sales and I work in healthcare professional. Everyone knows I'm a CNA. So there's always work for CNAs. I'm always able to pick up somewhere or to switch days with someone or something like that. I don't know how it is with other jobs, but I do have a sales position job which we're able to also switch days, or like, let's say someone calls up, I'll pick up for them, and then they'll in return have a day for me. So that's switching days. Or if it push just comes to shove where you don't feel like you'll be able to switch or get the time off, you'll just request off. And you could either request off for vacation or you could just request off. Just depends on knowing the rules and stuff for your specific job. If you have more than one job like I do, you need to see how all of that lines up. Most of the time when I travel, I try to make sure most of the trip is on a time when I'm already off. So if I know I'm going to take a trip, like, okay, it's like the end of July now. It's like mid-July, I guess. It's like what's today? Today's the 18th of July. So it's like mid-July, about to be end of July. So me, logically, because my birthday's coming up, y'all, so the next thing, I guess, quote-unquote, trip I'm planning for is my birthday. So my birthday falls in the week, between the week. So I can afford to take off during the week because I don't make a lot of money during the week working my sales job anyways. But if my birthday fell on that weekend, I would have to work because I would make more money on the weekend. But because my birthday is like a Wednesday or so, I took the whole week off. But I only technically I realistically only had to take the 17th off because that's the day I am scheduled to work because I know my schedule in and out. But if I didn't know my schedule and you kind of like me that has like a random schedule on days that you know that you are set, take that day off and leave the other days kind of open, because even though I took the whole week off from work, I did like where I'm not going to work evening shifts. I would only work morning shifts so I could still make money on my vacation because I'm not going far from home. So like I did like I think 2 morning shifts like that Thursday and Friday. Because I mean I'm not gonna be partying my whole week. You know what I mean? So it's like you could determine like depending on where you're going, can you still try to work or can you move days around and things like that. So sorry I'm doing a lot of talking, but I'm just giving you guys an example with it being close to the end of July. I know my birthday's coming up. So that's like the next big thing I'm planning for. So now we're going on to savings. So now I'm talking about saving. I'm talking about for your trip. The budgeting and saving was like talking about like let's lay out everything. You know, it's good to have for your record, but also for your trip. But now I'm talking about saving for your trip. So you decided, hey, I'm going on a trip. What do I need to know about the trip? And how much do I know I need to save? So now it's like now you could like, okay, I got my budgeting. I know what my bills are for the month or whatever. I know how much money I'm making a month. That's another thing. Know how much money you make in a month. If you pick up a lot of overtime, do not include your overtime. Do only like if you were to do a minimum and max of everything. So do a minimum of your bills like that have to be paid every month, and do a max of your bills like all of your bills. And you determine how much like wiggle room you have. When you get that big number of the max and you subtract it from your minimum, that's your wiggle room. And then so now you decided, hey, okay, let's do an example because I'm gonna do an example, but let's just do my birthday, I guess. So where are you going? That's your first part of number 2, saving for the trip. Where are you going? Don't just say, oh, I'm just going here and there. No, you need to be specific about where you're going and where you're going to stay. So let's say, so I was going to do an example at the end, but let's just go through it now. So the example was my June 8th to the 11th. The example I was going to do with you all was June 8th to the 11th, Madison, Wisconsin, with my sister's graduation. If you want to see that video, this is the link. Go check it out. So let's say where we're going. So let's say we're going to Madison. Okay, we're going to Madison, Wisconsin. So I knew for my trip that my sister's graduation. Well, I don't want to. I'm spoiling an example. Okay, let's not do that. So let's just say we're going to Aruba. Okay, because I don't want to use my example. So we're going to Aruba, y'all. And how long are we gonna stay at Aruba? Let's say we're gonna go to Aruba for a week. That's decent, I guess. Okay, so we're going to Aruba. We're going for a week, y'all. Now I'm saying y'all, right? Now the next step is, okay, you know you're gonna go to Aruba. That's your place. So let's put Aruba in here. Let's just go ahead and do this together, and then I'll do it alone. But let's just go ahead and do this. Aruba. So we're going to Aruba, and we're going for 1 week. In other words, we're going for 7 days. And that's another thing. Don't just put a week, put 7 days. And I'll tell you guys why. Are you traveling alone or we're going with others? Let's say we're traveling with others. You don't want to just say traveling with others, but you want to say traveling. You want to say, let's say we're going with 2 others. And let's say let's just say it's your 2 best friends. Okay, it's a 3-day, like a three friend trip, right? Okay. The next thing, the reason why you need to know if you're traveling alone or with others is a lot of reasons why. One being, you can see if you can split costs with. The only thing you're not going to be able to really split costs with is your travel there and back, your initial travel, your arrival and your departure. But everything else you can kind of split with others. But maybe besides like big excursions, you can split like lodging, like where you guys are going to stay. You can also split like Like if you guys are gonna go out to eat, like if you guys are gonna do a total budget, and you know everyone's gonna pitch in. Another thing is where you're gonna stay. You can like all like divvy those things up. So it's good to know in the beginning if you're gonna go with others or if you're gonna travel alone, because all those expenses are gonna be on you. Or you can, or the good thing about traveling alone is that you can kind of determine how much you want to spend on yourself. And you can either be more selfish with yourself by spending a little bit more, or you can be a little bit more frugal and spend your money elsewhere with the trip. So like we said, we're going with two others in this trip. The thing is, what is the most efficient way of travel? When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about specifically going and coming back. So we're going to Aruba. Let's say we're going to. Okay, so since we're going for a week and we don't really want to, waste time, let's say that we're going to. This isn't a really good example. Let's say we're gonna fly. Oops, I forget this is not voted. Yeah, so let's say we're gonna fly to Florida and then to Aruba. And we're from Chicago. Okay. Oops. Yeah, so we're flying from Chicago, and I'm not looking up specific prices. I'm just saying this is what we're doing. So we're from Chicago, we're flying to Florida, then to Aruba, and back the same way. So we're coming from Aruba to fly to Florida, and then back to Chicago. So that's how we're going to do that. And the reason why I said flight is because it's probably the most quickest. And even though it's a bit more expensive to fly in this situation, it's more efficient, because if you drive, then you have to worry about parking your car and paying for garage, going back, and possibly having to come back, get your car, may have a ticket, or you may have to pay for those 7 days, come back, and you have to still drive all the way back to Chicago. So for a trip like this, I would freaking fly. I would pay the extra money to fly. If it was maybe a shorter trip, maybe from like Chicago and I had a car, maybe Chicago to Wisconsin, like my past trip, if I had a car, I would have drove. But if not, I would have maybe took the train or something like that. So next thing is talking about your living accommodations for the trip. So like I said, you may want to do a hotel, you may want to do a hostel, or can you possibly live with your family that's in that city if you have family in that city. So if you don't have family, then that's already X'd out. But you can either do hotel, hostel, or couch surfing. There are a lot of different websites I wanted to show you guys about. Like I use Airbnb a lot. Like, a lot. You can also even use Groupon to see about different hotels. Like, let's just say hotels in Chicago. Aruba. Okay, it gave me Chicago, but you could just see that there may be better deals on Groupon. That's all I was trying to show you all. Or you can do Airbnb and see like Aruba, and you can see if it's cheaper for you to stay in a Airbnb. Things like that. Yeah. So let's say for this trip we're gonna do a hostel, but not only a hostel. And this is a good thing when you're looking for that's why I like using Airbnb. We're gonna use a hostel, and we're gonna use Airbnb. And we're gonna not get okay, since it's 3 of us, it does not make a lot of sense for all of us to get private rooms in a place living with somebody that already lives there. But we're gonna get an entire home. So on Airbnb, you can do like where you want let me go here and show you guys. Let me just put Aruba again. So you can put your dates, and you can put like how many people are gonna be there, and we would pick like 3 adults. And let's say we're going August 12th through the 18th. Yeah, we're just making up something. And let's say you can go to the home type, and you guys want an entire place to yourself. They also have private room and shared room. But in this situation, because there are more people, you would need an entire room. You could even budget by price depending on how much you want to spend a night, and things like that. So let's say we don't want to spend no more than 94 a night or something. Also, I didn't know that they had this on here, like what you can do for families or work trips. This isn't a work trip or anything, and things like that. So these are our options, And think about even if it's more expensive, you can still divvy it up depending on the amount of people that you have. So let's say, like, let's use that first example we had. So this one's $77 a night. We're staying for 7 days. So let me get a calculator here. Let's find the calculator. So we're doing 77 times. Well, I mean, this is just real vague. Where's the clear? So we're doing 77 times 7. Well, we're gonna do 6 because it's basically 6 nights and 7 days. 7 nights and 6 days. I'm keep mixing it up. It's 7 days and 6 nights because you're leaving that 7th day. So let's do 77 times 6. Your total would be 462 if you were going by yourself and you wanted this specific one. But if you do divided by 3, then the cost for each person would be 154. And then you guys could decide, well, who's gonna collect all the money, who can you guys trust to collect the money, put it on their card, and pay for the entire trip, because not everyone carries cards and things like that. So that's another thing. So like we said, we're gonna do the hostel and things like that. So now, this is the next question. Like, if you're going with someone or not, what living accommodations are most effective for what you are wanting out of this trip? Now, the reason why I put you is because a lot of times when we go with others, we feel like we have to always be with other people. And that is why, honestly, personally, I prefer to travel with people. I mean, I prefer to travel alone, like there and back, and even maybe to the extent live by myself during my trip, and just meet up with people when we get there, because sometimes it's a lot cheaper. like like let's say I want to do an Airbnb, but my friend wants to do a hotel, and I feel like for my budget the hotel is too expensive, but I could get a better deal by just getting a private room, staying with someone that lives there, and still get the same accommodations or even more accommodations, versus if they had a hotel. Like, I know with some hotels, a lot of people get suites when they stay for longer because they have like a little kitchenette area and things like that. But honestly, like, I like to get an Airbnb private room because they have a full blown kitchen in their house, and that's because I when I go on vacation, I try to cook a lot. To save money with takeout, I allow myself, depending on how long the trip is, that's how many times I allow myself to take out. But most of the time, my trips are like 5 days, 3 days or so, and I purposely buy groceries to cook, and it makes me cook. So so things like that, like I said, like is it most effective for you to lodge with all of them, or is it better for you guys to get your own place? As far as like a hotel or a hostel, is it even better if you're doing like a 1 day trip? Is it better for you to just go ahead and couch surf because you need somewhere to crash, and you don't really care about where you're sleeping at that one night or those 2 nights, and you're gonna be out most of the time anyway? So it's like, a lot of factors go into traveling, and deciding if you really need your space, like, or do you just need somewhere to crash and eat and zip dip, because most of your excursions are outside, or going to be doing something outside. um yeah. So next step with the saving for the trip is what big excursions can be paid for while you're at home. And that's why I also went to Groupon. I love Groupon, guys. That's why I also went to Groupon. Like, you can just type like excursions, but you would put a course for your trip, you know. And sometimes, like, this looks expensive, but Chicagoland scuba diving for $25. I mean, just anything, depending on where you're going. I mean, this looks expensive as hell, but I'm just saying, versus if you get there, and I didn't even know they sell gear on here, but you can get your gear and your excursions sometimes on Groupon, and it may just come out a lot cheaper. Now, with excursions, depending on some of them, let me just click on one. They'll tell you if it's just for one person or two people, or if it's for multiple people. So like this one is for 2 people. That's priced for that 109 is like $50 and some change each person. That's not a bad deal. Or let's say you're going up with 6 people, that's not a bad deal either. Excuse me. So that's another thing to look out for when you're looking into excursions. Or is it cheaper to just buy them when you actually get there? Because some people don't like to plan excursions before they go, because it feels like you kind of have your days planned out. But depending on the type of trip, like if I was going out the country, honestly, I would just get my excursions paid for while I'm at home, because some excursions have where you can pay them off like over time before the time comes, or you could pay in full and you know that you have that excursion set up, you know. So like if I was going to the country, I would definitely plan my excursions here in my own currency, so I can understand the currency, or wherever you are in your own currency. You know they will charge you right and everything. Versus like if you get over there, something can maybe happen with your money and things like that. So personally, if I was going out the country, I would pay for my excursions here. If I was going like local, I usually just pay for my excursions when I'm there, depending on the nature of the trip. Like if it's a concert, most of the time I will pay here. If it's like some small little expo or stuff like that, sometimes I pay there, pay here. It just depends. Next question is, how much do you plan to spend each day or each week on your trip, depending on the length of your trip? Someone is calling me. They gonna have to go to voicemail because I am in the middle of a video. But yes, guys, sorry about that. But I just saw my phone going off, and yeah, they're gonna have to wait a minute. Cool. We don't know. Anyways, why am I being so goofy? But yeah, so what do you plan to spend each day? Now, I don't usually do this too much, but I do budget extensively so I don't have to plan by each day, because each day you're not always doing something. For me, for the most part, if I'm doing like a longer trip, like this trip that's coming up for 2 weeks, I promise y'all I'm not gonna be doing a whole excursion every day. I'm not gonna be buying groceries every day. I'm not gonna be buying take, like it's just like something you're just not gonna be doing every day. You're not gonna always be out. Sometimes you just, like for me anyway, sometimes I just like to stay in the hotel or wherever I'm lodging at and just relax. So but depending on if you're going out the country or whatever your situation may be, you guys may be doing something every day. Or you guys bought a package where you have to do something every day, or whatever the case may be. Just budget out your spending, as far as like not your flight, not your hotel and stuff like that, but like how you're gonna spend your money, groceries, and or if you're gonna buy the takeout and things like that. Another thing that's most important for me: are you gonna be cooking, or are you gonna taking out most of your food? So for me, like I said, depending on the length of the trip and the nature of the trip, I will cook more or I will just take out. So let's do a couple examples of trips I've gone on. So recently, like I said, I just went June after the 11th. I went to my sister's graduation. With that, I stayed with her family. So there was no reason for me to constantly take out. One, because I've been to Wisconsin before and there was nothing spectacular about the food over there as far as something I have not had from there already or from here in Chicago. So um for that trip there was nothing like, ooh, I want to try this when I'm out in Wisconsin, or nothing like that. So most of the time what I did was I went to Walmart, which you guys will see in that vlog if you guys haven't watched that video already. We went to Walmart and we just bought groceries, and I think I spent like $30 in groceries, which was not bad because whatever I don't take back home with me or eat up, they have. So or like sometimes when I go use Airbnb, I buy smaller amounts of groceries because it's just me in the house eating up my food, eating up the food that I brung, and whatever I don't take with me, I leave for my host or hostess to partake in because I can't take it with me. Things like milk and yogurt. Sometimes I'll take like frozen meats back home, depending on if I drove or if I flew, or depending on the nature of the trip, I'll take it back. Most of the time I leave it. But yeah, like for me, because I don't like to eat a lot of takeout, I do like to have home cooked meals. I do budget a lot for groceries and taking out. So like if I do like a 5-day trip, I'm allowed to take out maybe twice. If I do a 2-day trip, I may be allowed to take out each day, but not for every meal. That's the thing. So you have to break it up into 3 meals and a couple snacks, and you have to determine. Well, I like to determine. I said that you have to, but I like to budget like this. I don't know, it's 3 meals in a day, and I know I may have a snack. We'll say one snack. So if I eat breakfast at home, in my hostel, and I eat lunch in my hostel, because let's just say that's a lazier day. I just was in the house. I woke up about 11. It's already lunchtime, but I want breakfast. And then I won't eat again till maybe 8. Let's say I was just too lazy to cook anything, and I get takeout. If it's a 2-day trip, okay, tomorrow maybe I'll just eat like completely in the house as well. It just depends, like on the nature of the day and everything. But you do have to accommodate for what you're going to eat, because you don't want to eat a bunch of takeout, and you don't want to eat a bunch of food that you had at home already because you're used to it. So you do got to find somewhere in the middle. If you're going out with a lot of people, determine if you guys are going to put the bill together or if you guys are going to do separate checks. Like, that's just a lot of stuff I just try to avoid by going by myself. And no one told me I had 3 E's in week. Um, yeah. Okay. Another thing is, how are you gonna get around? Are you gonna Uber? Are you gonna Lyft? Are you gonna learn their bus system? Are you gonna learn their train system? Or are you gonna just rent a car? So, like, let's talk about back to when I went to St. Louis. Most of the time there, I took their train from the airport to close to my hostel, and then my hostess picked me up and took me home, and she also took me to my back to my the train station. But when I was down there, I took Uber, or I took Uber or Lyft, whichever was cheaper. But most of the time, I Ubered or Lyft, or I walked. She was in a very central local area, so I was able to walk around a lot. Also, see, is it safe to walk in those certain areas of where you are? Don't just start walking and just lollygagging all in the street. Like, see if it's safe enough for you to walk around in that area. If so, then walk. I mean, if you don't have anywhere to bring some comfortable shoes, bring you some water and walk. But most of the time for me, I take the Uber Lyft, or I learn their bus system either before I go or in my area or where places I want to go, and I'll actually take the bus a lot of times, or their train system. Like if they have like a metro, and like I'll buy and that's nothing. Like if you're gonna take their metro a lot, are you gonna just buy like a little metro 4-day pass? I mean, I'm saying metro because that's what it's in Chicago, but it's a train. Like, are you gonna buy like a little pass for the weekend or wherever, how long you're gonna stay? Are you gonna buy a bus pass for however long you're gonna stay? Because you usually don't need an ID. You could usually just go up to like a little kiosk and put your little money in, or they'll charge a card, and you can use that for your time there. I know things like in the city, like Chicago and New York, have things like that. So, but I don't know how it is when you get to other countries, and other states may not have things like that. But it's better to look into it and see, can you save money by walking or Ubering, or which is most effective. I also even put rent a car, trolley. I don't know what some people have, but is renting a car better if you guys want to go a lot of different places? Because then if you rent a car, you got to worry about parking. Depending on some parts, it may have you park in the garage, and things like that when you go to different like places like clubs and things. So now the final portion I'm going to talk about is spending while you're on the trip. Spending on the trip. So what is your minimum and max for each day, week, or month, depending on how long you're staying? Usually for me, I'm depending on how much I'm going to spend in a day. I'll say, okay, like usually, like let's say I go for 4 days. And I go for 4 days, and my first day is literally you relaxing. You don't want to do too much. You just got in from your flight. You want to chill. Initially you may want to go get some quick little takeout, but you're like, okay, well, let me save it for maybe my third day. And you go to Walmart and you get all your groceries and you make you something, and you buy enough so you can have for the whole 4 days there. Um and let's say in that day you spent, let's say your groceries cost you 30. You took, so that's from your grocery budget. And then let's say you took like a $10 Uber there and back to get to the grocery store and back to your hostel. That was $20 of your travel. And then you stayed in the house. You cooked the rest of your food. You didn't go nothing that first day. So on that first day you spent 30, 40, you spent $50. Okay, but let's say the next day you wake up, you're real rested, and you're up and up, and you want to go do like a wine tasting tour. So let's say you bought this tour before you went, and it costed you like $40. Okay, and you bought a bus card. Yeah, let's say you bought a bus. Well, let's say we're in Chicago. Like, let's say we bought a bus card, and so we don't have to pay for none of our things. The bus card costed us like $20. We put $20 on there for the whole time because you plan to bus a lot, or you plan to take a train a lot. So you put $20 on there for your whole trip. And depending on the cost of the trip, let's say $2 here and there and back, that was only $4. So it's like you really have to, depending on how much budgeting you want to do. That's how I budget my trip. And honestly, most of the times when I come back from my trips, excuse the train, it's right here if you guys hear it. But honestly, a lot of times I do vacations. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I always have money spent over. And the money has been budgeted out to the point where that's my spending money. So literally I come back and like from my trips and I have like the most I think I've ever had from a trip that I have not used for like the trip is like $100. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but $100 just to like spend on yourself because your bills and stuff are paid up is really nice to have, you know. The least that maybe I had was like $30 from a trip, you know, for it being more of like an expensive trip. I may have like $20, $30 left over. But yeah, so that's talking about how much you spend each day, depending on what you plan to do and stuff like that. The next point is how much will you spend on takeout or groceries specifically. I talked about this. Please have a budget for those things. Budget for groceries and takeout. Please do. Even if I've had to some extent, if I wanted to try out a restaurant in another city or country, I will Google how much, like I would look at their menu and see what I would like, and then do like a minimum and max of that restaurant because I knew I was gonna maybe get a little bit more or get a little less. It's just the budgeting is not difficult. It sounds like a lot in this one video, but when I'm doing it like a checklist. Like I'm doing, okay, this is where I'm going, for how long, max money, minimum money, where do I plan to do, where do I plan to eat, how much I want to put away with groceries, how much. It's literally like boom, 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 boom. It gets so easy, but it just sounds like a lot in this video. I literally do it, and I've gotten to the point where I'm able to travel more. It feels like I'm traveling more. It doesn't feel like I just work, and go to school. But it's like, you know, you can really feel like you do something besides just work and go to school. This is good for like college students or people that are in their career and can't really just up and leave for 2 weeks, you know. But someone like me, like a college student, and you know, I work a lot of hours and things like that, you know, this is how I get to budget. The next big thing, when you're traveling on the trip, this is the thing that gets me. When you are out, and I spelled souvenir wrong, y'all. I'm not slow, but I thought I spelled check this. I didn't. But basically it meant to say souvenir. But when you are out souvenir shopping, are the items going to be useful for when you get home? And even when you're buying stuff for other people, like people always say, oh, when you go there, come back and bring me something. Honestly, when people tell me that, I tell them you should have just went, or you should just come. I never really buy gifts for people on vacation. Like it's a vacation for me or something like that. There's a very rare moment I will actually buy stuff for people when I'm on vacation. It is very rare, and it's not because I'm being mean. It's not because I'm being all frugal. One, because yes, that let's say that $100 bracelet is not in the budget of spending, so no, it's not gonna get bought. But some things like I bought while on vacation were little knickknacks because my knickknacks are actually not portrayed, displayed in my room. So like I bought like a one little elephant when I went on this Champagne Urbana trip I went to. I bought me a little white elephant because I love elephants, and it was so cute. It was from this little boho shop or whatnot, and I feel like it would do value to my life being in my presence. So I'm not trying to become a minimalist, but I'm just trying to minimize the things and items I do possess. So especially with me just moving, honestly, I realize I don't have a lot of clothes and a lot of other things because I've gotten rid of so many. So usually when I'm on vacation, I don't buy for other people as far as like souvenirs. And even for myself, my things are not really souvenirs. They're not like quirky little can openers that say Florida or something like that. It's something I can actually use. Like I may buy like me a glass, you know, and knowing that I'm going to drink out that glass when I get home. Like, you know, something like that. And even if you are bringing gifts back, make sure you have room in your suitcase and make sure you're able to bring those things on your form of transportation, especially when you're talking about planes. You know, some things you cannot bring back, you know, or they may be looking kind of suspicious in your bag and stuff. So, you know, be on the lookout for that. So now we're going to just go ahead and wrap this all up and talk about different tips. So, tips. Some tips I have is have a budget for your leisure spending, your groceries and takeout. That's wrong. That word is spelled incorrectly. See, sometimes when I'm typing real fast, I'll misspell a word. But have a budget for your leisure spending, your groceries and takeout, and traveling when there. Please do. Leisure and spending is when you're wanting to just buy little stuff, spur of the moment type of things. Groceries and takeout is talking about what you're going to eat. And then traveling when there. That's your Ubering and stuff. For me, those are my three big budgeters. What am I gonna spend? How much I'm putting away for my spending money? How much I'm putting away for food? Because you have to eat. You don't really have to spend, but you have to eat. And how are you gonna get around when you're there? Are you gonna do the bus? Are you gonna do the train? Are you gonna just put like? Sometimes I do this since Uber has credit now. I'll put like $50 on the credit, or I put $100 on the credit. For me to use while I'm on my vacation. Next tip is cheapest and most expensive do not always mean better or worse. So a lot of people look down on Airbnb, but honestly, y'all, and I've done a lot of Airbnb private rooms, and y'all, sometimes the things that you just get with the private room, and even staying with somebody that's a local there, is something you cannot get with being in a hotel by yourself, with people that just work there. You know what I mean? So like my accommodation, let's say, like, talking about the one thing when I say cheaper is better sometimes, or it's not better. So in this situation, cheaper was better. I did not get a hotel, but I got an Airbnb. She was centrally located in a very nice cultural, really diverse area, which I love that when I travel. She picked me up from my train station and brought me back. Like, so it's just like some things, she always asked me how I was. She was willing to drive me around. Like if she was going on her way to work, she would ask me, "Hey, you want me to drop you off here? While you're going and stuff like that." I mean, people may say that's not safe or whatnot, but I mean, to each his own. I'm not gonna judge nobody for that, but I've done it a lot of times, like with my hostess and stuff. The tub I had was a clawfoot tub. My bed was so comfortable. She left snacks in the room for me all the time. She was like open her whole kitchen up to me. She had like these really nice spice rack. I mean, it's just some stuff you just cannot get when you're at a hotel. You just can't. And there's stuff when you're at an Airbnb that you can get, that you would like if it was a hotel, like something like, of course, not a pool. You won't get a pool in some people's houses. So that's one thing that you just have to see. Is it better to just be cheaper and get less, or get more in some cases, or is it better to get your hotel because you want a pool and you want to feel like you want to have room service and things like that. And so it just depends on the nature of the trip. Another tip I have is try different modes of transportation. Do not always feel like you have to walk and Uber and Lyft. Those are things I do when I'm here a lot. I also take the bus here. So when I'm out of town, I try to see how how other states run their what am I saying, modes of transportation, like the train, like the quote unquote metro train. It's not called metro, but the train in St. Louis is so nice. Like I love how fast it is. You can, like, when you go over the train at night, in their downtown area, it's so beautiful when it's lit up and you're going over the train. It's like you're right on top of the whole city. It's so beautiful. Like, and I mean, I would have never got that experience if I didn't take the train, or if I even drove, I would never got that experience. And another tip I have is take pictures. Me personally, I do take pictures, but I mainly vlog. So, I mean, take pictures or videos, I guess. So let's go ahead and do the example of, to wrap this all up, to show you guys how you can do this so easily. So I'm literally going to copy and paste this whole how to small budget trips and all that. And we're going to do this from my last trip I just went on. And honestly, this trip was not expensive at all. Excuse me, I'm talking a lot and my throat is getting really dry. But I want to make this one continuous video because your girl is lazy. So we just copied and pasted exactly what was up there. The numbers came out a little weird, but that doesn't really matter. We're gonna delete the answers, and we're gonna plug in everything that I did for this trip, because you guys are gonna see how easy this is. I don't usually use a form or anything. I just do this like on like a personal document. I'll just say, okay, we're going to Madison. This how many days? Can I afford it? Yes, no. Like, it's literally like that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's put mine in blue. So let's say for that trip, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I went for 8, 9, 10, 11. I went for 4 days and 3 nights. So monthly expenses. What did I say my monthly expenses were, guys? Can we do automatically blue? Because Um, okay. This is not working. Let's just bold it, I guess. Or you know what? I'm gonna just put the answers here. Hopefully, you guys can see them, cause I'll capitalize everything. Okay. So what are my daily and monthly expenses? We go to my monthly expenses chart and we find out that my monthly expenses are $214.96 exactly. Sometimes I have other things that come out of my account, so we will give ourselves a buffer and say that $220 come out of my account, as you guys were able to see there. So we'll say 220 is what comes out of my account. Sorry if you guys hear the fan blowing. It's a bit humid here, so I have the fan going. So we'll say that my monthly expenses, and I'll just go ahead and bold monthly, so I know I'm talking about monthly expenses. If it were bold for me, is $220. Sorry, I'm so anal with stuff like this. Um, what can be cut out or reduced or better tracked? So one thing I know that was that for that trip, I had to not go no, for this trip for me, I had to honestly not eat out as much, because my check was nice during that time, because I was picking up a bunch of hours for the trip, but the problem was I wasn't realizing, hey, you're gonna need money for your trip, so don't eat out as much. So that's one thing I had cut out before my trip, was a lot of eating out. Also, I had fasted anyway, so that kind of had worked it good anyway, so not eat out as much. Is the amount of money I make in the time frame, daily, weekly, monthly, enough to not only sustain my expenses but accommodate a trip? So we're doing a daily trip. We're doing a monthly trip. So I go ahead and bold that, and I would pop yes right up in here. So we'll just pop yes. I mean, you don't have to go through this exact checklist, but it's just, I'm just letting you guys see. Where are we going? We're going to Madison, Wisconsin. And like I said, I don't just put where I'm going. I'm going to Madison, Wisconsin for my sister's graduation, which was on that Saturday. So, and then I'll put like on Saturday, June 9th, around at 10 a.m. And so the reason why I do that is because I know that most of that day I was with family and I didn't have to worry about food or things like that, because I was going to be at a graduation most of the time and then went out for dinner. How long? Like I said, it was for 8, 9, 10, 11. So it was for 3 nights and 4 days. Y'all are really seeing how badly I type. Traveling alone, initially I traveled alone, but I met people there. I met my family there. So we're going to say traveling alone. What it was the most efficient way of travel? Honestly, flying was not realistic, and I don't have a car, or I didn't rent a car, so I didn't drive. So either it was gonna be like take a bus or like a Amtrak. Amtrak is a train. It did not end up working well because the place of where they would have dropped me off in Wisconsin was too far from my family to pick me up. So the better thing was I actually took the Van Gelder bus, which kind of goes like to Indiana, Wisconsin, and Chicago. Kind of loops back in those areas. It also goes to like further parts of Illinois, like Peoria, Rockford, things like that. So I took the Van Gelder bus. I think this only costed me like, I don't remember how much it was, but let's just say it was 66. Traveling, I mean the accommodation was zero. Uh, because I stay with my family. So we'll put 0, staying. Why is this tweaking? Staying. Y'all need a new computer. Staying with family. The most effective, honestly, initially I was supposed to get a hotel. But last minute I found out that with Wisconsin, it's not like Chicago. And you have to be 21 to get a hotel. Most places like this downtown Chicago is kind of like that. But honestly, here it's like, hold on, but staying with family. Why did I put that? So yeah, so that's what I found out about that. And the hotels that I had wanted that were 18 and under to check in and check out, they were super far from where my family stayed and where the graduation was gonna be. And they were more expensive. So I was just like, I would have to spend more money not only in accommodations but travel to get to and from. So it just ended up being better to stay with family. Um, any big excursions? Um, no, I didn't pay for none. Because this was like a family trip, so I'll just put no. Family trip. I'm not being really formal because this would be like if I was doing this on my own. So no family trip. The only thing I wanted to maybe do was like there was maybe like a job expo, and the job expo was like close to area. So I plan to do a job expo. I plan to go to a job expo more or less to get some exposure from my business, but I ended up not going because of what time I left. And I mean what time I arrived in Wisconsin. So and it was free, so I wouldn't have had to worry about paying for it. Other than that, no. How much did you plan to spend each day? Um, I think I only brought. Uh, I think I only brought like $100 with me, honestly, because I paid for my travel before I left, and like I said, there was no big excursions, so I brought less money with me. I think in total I maybe brought like, let's say like $120, because that's more or less what I think I brought. 120. Did you cook or take out most of the time, or were you, well, let's say as if I'm planning for this, I did cook most of the time. So the reason why I said $20 was because I think I know my bill for groceries was like $30. So because I know I wasn't staying a long time, I think my total was maybe like $35. So I think my budget was maybe like 40. I wasn't gonna spend no more than $40, even though I knew that that was a max. My minimum was like 30. So you know. How are you gonna get around? Honestly, I thought I was gonna have to Uber and Lyft everywhere, which was why I put more money aside for that. But my sister had a car, and so I mean, she took me around a lot. But my budget for Ubering around was like, honestly, because when I found out she had a car, I didn't really plan to be doing anything but staying in the house. So let's just say my Uber was 50. I know these numbers not gonna add up with bringing $120 with you, but I'm just kind of giving you a budget, cause right there alone, like 50, 60, 70, 80, we're talking about you only have $80. I mean, you spent 80 of your 120, so I mean, which may be kind of realistic, but I just can't remember. Sorry if you hear the mic moving around a lot. Um, I just can't remember. So what is my min and max for each day, month, week? So I don't, like I said, max. I didn't plan to spend no more than $200 when on this trip, honestly. And mainly, most of that was gonna be like if we did something like go out or most of that was going out for groceries. And like I said, I thought I was gonna have to pay more for my Uber, and I really didn't because like she ended up driving me around, so that $50 put back into my savings money. I mean, put back into my spending money. Um, I already told you guys how much I was gonna spend for groceries, about $30, $40 max. Souvenirs, I didn't buy any souvenirs, but I did buy like Bath and Body Works and Victoria's Secret had their semi-annual sale, and I bought like a bag. I think my total from all of that stuff was like $30. So, so in total, I guess you say for this trip was like, so let's just put the amount down here. So we're gonna do, we'll do 66 plus 30 plus, how much did I spend that day? And I think I spent like $30 when shopping, and we went to the movies. And I'm thinking about everything I bought because I know I bought like we went to go see Ocean 8, and then I bought some little snacks from the little gas station. So the ticket was like $11. I think I only spent like $5. So if we add that up right quick, we can see 66 plus 60. So it was 141. Yeah. So still under that 200 mark for my trip. You know, that's including the bus because I had paid for the bus already, you know. So that trip literally was like max $150. Honestly, that trip was really cost effective. Because it was more or less a family event. But like I said, like if it would have been for me, like it would have been a little bit more like if I was going somewhere by myself and it really was just like a getaway type of trip. But yeah, um, well, yeah, guys, that's all I really have to say about budgeting and things. So other than that, I'm sorry for the long video, but I did just want to go ahead and explain all of that stuff. And yeah, guys, so I thank you guys for watching. And if you stay all the way here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave a comment. If you guys want me, I can actually, I don't think I can leave the PDF um somewhere, but if you want the PDF of that like that little breakdown, I can make it a little bit more nicer for you and send it to you. Or what I can do is I can like make like a copy of it and put it into the discussion board on my YouTube channel. Let me go to that because I think they still have the discussion board. I think I saw a notification saying that they were going to take that off of YouTube. um but what I can do is I can put it on here and the little discussion tab. Oh, they still do have it. Okay, so yeah, I can pop it right up in here for you all. And what I can even do is when I upload the video, I can pop it in the description box all the way at the end. So yeah, guys, I just want to thank you guys for watching, and adios, chicas y chicas. Te amo.